Hello, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this morning? This morning's live stream is going to be about how MAGA has fractured. And there's no doubt about it now. I mean, you got the influential, the ones that stand out in public that are fighting with each other now. So, yeah, MAGA has fractured. You know, he's told a lot of people now, the old Trumpster, that he doesn't need you no more. Just like he told us when we believed that the hoax, the list wasn't a hoax. So anyway, that's what we're going to talk about. It ought to be a good discussion today. Should have a few people showing up, a few moderators and stuff. Anyway, we got a world of crap coming down. This is going to be one bad winter, and next year it's going to be worse than this year. Hey, Bambi, how you doing? Yeah, you need to get out and enjoy as much as you can. I tell you what, the weather here has been absolutely incredible. For the middle of November, not having to deal with cold weather and snow or nothing like that, but, upper 70s and no wind and beautiful fall weather. I don't know. It's kind of, I think when it comes, we're going to pay for all this wonderful time we've been having. I heard the East Coast has worse weather than we do. So anyway, but get out there and enjoy it because we got a world of hurt coming down. When we got the higher echelon in this country arguing with each other like they are, and they're supposed to be on the same side, we got a world of hurt coming down. And, the people who are in the middle, that would be the American citizens, we're going to pay. It's like we always got to pay because don't have the ability to make the uppers pay for the garbage they sit there and add to our life. I mean, imagine what your life could be without all these stupid regulations and laws we deal with. I mean, most people are good people out there. We don't infringe on other people and stuff. We don't bother other people's lives. We kind of, we want to live our own life and not worry about other people and stuff. But anyway, yeah, enjoy your time because we got a world of hurt coming down. Anyway, let's talk about MAGA fracturing. Boy, Trump sure is going off on Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I believe she's from Georgia. I mean, there's so many videos of Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene together, and Trump even saying that that's one woman he wouldn't want as his enemy. Said that publicly. But, as a congressperson, just because you're a Republican doesn't mean you're going to agree with every Republican. If you're a Republican, you are allowed to not vote with the majority of Republicans. Last thing I want as a representative is somebody in D.C. who just sits there and toes the line of the elites up there. The lobbyists and stuff like that, the people that keep filling their pockets. And Trump sits there and sounds like he wants yes people in Congress and the Senate. People go, yes, sir, we'll vote that way. Yes, sir. And if you don't agree with them, you got to go. Well, Hitler had that in the Reichstag. A puppet parliament. Amanda, hi. How's everybody doing this morning? Glad you're here. Hey, if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and the bell notification. Anything to get the channel to grow. That's what I'm trying to do. Get the word out here because we got a world of hurt coming down. I tell you what, Trump getting on his social media account and sitting there, there's some things that the American people don't need to know. When our politicians are fighting with each other and disagreeing with each other, they can keep that behind closed doors. But when they get on social media and says what he says, insults this Thomas Massey and says his wife will find out he's married to a loser or a coward or however he put it. I mean, are you kidding me, Trump? You're president, right? And then what he said about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, traitor green, as he called her. Traitor to who? To you? But she's not a traitor to the people she represents in Congress now, is she? Because she's been elected 3 times. They like her. You know, we don't need a bunch of yes people in D.C. And then, you know, why has MAGA fractured? Okay, what did MAGA used to stand for? Closed borders, fiscal responsibility, no wars, the American citizen and America first. I mean, the old make America great again. What do we got now? What's Trump toting now? First, okay, 50-year mortgage. You'll own nothing and like it. Sound like that? 600,000 Chinese students, just Chinese students in our colleges. That doesn't include all the other countries. And he's all for that. H-1B visa programs, because Americans aren't capable now, right? Wreck the east wing of the White House so he could build a ballroom to entertain all his elite friends. God, that pisses me off. He didn't even tell anybody. And then when people were saying that they were destroying the East Wing, oh, no, 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 no. And then they came out and said it. That's the people's house. Remodeling's one thing. Destroying's another. He should have at least asked the people's permission. I don't know why that burns me so bad, but it just fucking does. Okay, people need to stop telling Trump he's Jesus Christ. We know he's just a man like everybody else is. Probably just a little bit more corrupt because guess what? He went to D.C. and turned into another one of those swamp creatures. Okay? And then the illegals, you know, when Barack Obama got rid of more illegals than Trump is, okay, that's just a bunch of talk to. Okay, he said he was going to get rid of the Department of Education. You say our kids aren't capable, our young adults aren't capable of doing these entry-level jobs. Really? Then why? Because their parents screwed up? I mean, where do we place the blame on this? Because the school screwed up? Because the government intruded in people's lives too much? I mean, I have to admit, I agree with Trump on that. A lot of us older generation can see that the younger generation is not as capable as we are. They're not as educated. They weren't pushed and had to endure like we had to endure. Oh, shoot, just us. Impeach, I'm sorry. Here. Come on, phone. There, impeach, you're a moderator. I tell you what, both your times I catch you live last night. It's right at the end of the show. I was busy yesterday. Beautiful day, like I say. I was mowing the grove, knocking these weeds down, and had to do my laundry in my wringer washer, hanging out dry, and I rode horse, and I had to cut wood. So, you know, getting rid of the illegals, not keeping man out of women's sports and common sense. Yeah. You know, I'm going to bash Trump because I'm sick of this shit. You know, when he sat there and said that if you believe that the list exists, I don't need you no more. All the president has to do is tell me that. Okay. He told me to get the fuck out. I didn't tell him to get the fuck out. Okay. But he's got, and then Bill Gates in the White House so they can talk about some universal one-shot fix-all shit. And you got terrorists, ISIS and shit in the White House, both under Biden and Trump. I mean, men our vets fought are in the White House. I mean, what exactly is the end game of all this shit? But MAGA's fractured, okay? You got Nick Valentes, and they don't like Tucker Carlson no more. He needs to be deplatformed and defunded, and his life needs to be destroyed. Why? Why? Because he goes against the narrative? I mean, not only do we conservatives have to deal with it from when Biden was in office, getting our channels censored and shut off and canceled, and, all the crap that went on. But now we're dealing with it under Trump. If you disagree with me, I'm going to try to pull his shit. You don't even agree with yourself, Trump. You flip-flopped on so much crap already so far. I mean, you ran on releasing the Epstein list. You ran on that. And now everybody's saying, well, it wasn't him who actually said that. It was those underlings. Okay, let's go with that. So why didn't he tell him to shut the fuck up? Because the list wasn't going to be released. Because remember, Epstein was in jail under the first Trump term who died. So Trump had all this information on his first term. Right? You got pictures of them being buds and saying we didn't get along. Yeah, but you knew what Epstein was doing. And maybe that's why you didn't get along, because you knew what Epstein was doing and you were against it. But guess what? Even as president, you didn't do a fucking thing about it to stop it. Okay? And this 50-year mortgage, they don't care about, none of our politicians care about us little people. It don't matter what your political affiliation or what the politicians' letter they got behind their name. They don't care about you. And the ones that do get escorted out. See, the big money is what keeps people in D.C. It does. And when the big money don't want to support you no more because you rub everybody, you don't follow the narrative enough, they're going to get rid of you. Okay? And now Trump obviously wants a yes Congress, somebody who sits there. Well, obviously, you got to support Israel, right? Well, we need to keep giving all this money to Israel. You realize the billions of dollars we give to other nations because they have poor people. Okay? Billions of dollars to all these other countries because they have poor people. Because we won't spend that money on our own. We won't spend our tax dollar payers on our own citizens that are poor. If we took away foreign aid, I tell you what, just us impeach. I got a video to make about Israel. I was there. Like I say, I was there in '87, the greatest country. But it's been hijacked by a bunch of fucking asshole pricks. Just like this country has. Okay. And, my views on it are changing. I wish I would have known more about history a while ago than I do now. And then I'm just, learning more every day. But, you can see the puppeteer and the strings and who the puppets are. It's obvious as hell to me. BRICS had to born. BRICS had to born. What are you talking about? Had to be born? Well, BRICS, why did BRICS have come about? Because you had major powers in this world that weren't going to bow down to America's pressure when it came to finances. Okay? They didn't want to sit there in China and Russia didn't want to have to deal with each other, but have to use and sell oil, but have to use American currency. So America had to be involved in their transactions. Why should American currency be involved in two other countries, different countries' transactions? That's why it was brought up. And they knew that the dollar is going to fail. Okay, it should have failed already. $38 trillion in debt. Back when paper money came out, you could take it to a bank and exchange your paper money for gold. That was even not up until about, what, 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago? You can't do that no more, can you? Because your paper ain't worth your money isn't worth the paper it's printed on. It's all because somebody believes that you're buying something from them that they think, oh, this money's worth something. Anyway, MAGA's going down to Admiral and Peach. Anyway, the thing about this world, we got to be able to disagree on things. If we can't disagree and voice our opinions, and we all got to sit there and be quiet, if you need a room and like it is now. You go to Thanksgiving, you got people that don't agree with. Let's say you're the only conservative. You got to sit there and keep your mouth shut. Really? That's America? And you get shunned in it. Anyway. But yeah, MAGA has fractured. It's fractured big time. It's quite obvious. In the roles being played, you see who cares about America. Americans. The people that go to D.C. and know what their job is, not to sit there and please the president, but to please their constituents. And, Trump is starting to go off the rails. I mean, what was it? Warren Buffett that said you'll own nothing and like it, or whatever one of those elites said that? And then he comes out with a 50-year mortgage? Well, that sounds like you'll own nothing and like it. The chances of if you buy a house at 30 and paying it off, if that's the only house you buy and paying it off before you die, they get slim and slim all the time. And that's the thing. How can we live in a country where you need a 50-year mortgage to pay off a house? If you can't pay off a house in 20 years, the house is overpriced. Shouldn't even take you that long. But this is the thing when you go in debt like that. You should only have one big debt payment. If it's your car, you shouldn't have any debt at all. Flat out, cut those frickin' credit cards up. Tell the bank, pay off your loans. And when the bank is asking you, hey, well, you need to borrow some money because you really want to, tell them to kiss your ass. I worked for a farmer once, milking cows. And he was getting ready to retire. His son was taking over, but the stuff that was in his name and stuff, he had made the last payments on it. And 2 months later, the goddamn bank was out there, the bank president was out there trying to talk him into borrowing more money. He's like, why should I? I got everything paid off. I don't need anything. Borrow for what? Predatory lending when the damn president comes out to the farm and says, hey, you're doing pretty good. Can we enjoy some of that with you? 50-year mortgage on a house. Yeah, you go to these, I don't go to the doctor, but I had a friend, had a colonoscopy, $15,500 for a few hours to come back negative because they wanted the procedure done. And a lot of people these days just go, okay, sounds good to me, yep. $15,500. And what do we get paid? What's the average person get paid? $25 an hour? Little discrepancy there. You have two incomes. You never own it. You rent it from the state. Yeah, that's another thing. This is why I'll never own a house again. Because, okay, I had my mortgage payment. I had my insurance. Just my insurance and my taxes on the house was $400 a month. If you took it through the year, you'll pay it in a lump sum. But if you divide that through the months, it'd be $400 a month just to look at my house. Okay, taxes. You have a 50-year mortgage. You done paid your mortgage off, and with what you paid in taxes, you paid for your house again. And then they make houses so they fall apart after 40 years. So you just have to. It's a crock of crap. See, they're just trying to keep people in debt. That's how they keep people in control. They control them. I tell you what, being debt-free, being financially independent, I only have to work 2-3 days a month to make what I need to survive. I tell you what, my time is way more important to me than a green piece of worthless fucking paper. Okay? My home 20 years ago. You bought your home 20 years ago, Impeach? Yeah, just think. Okay, this is what I'm saying. People that normally buy the home they're going to live in the rest of their life, that's what they buy in their 30s or maybe early 40s. Can you imagine having a mortgage till you were 90? I mean, he got hammered on that. I'm wondering who he's listening to the average moron he's listening to, that he's going to bring this out to the American people and say this crap. See, this is the thing. They have no idea what it's like to be us. They have no idea what it's like to actually struggle. When I had kids, I struggled. I washed clothes because I didn't have a wash machine and I didn't have money for laundry. I had to do it in the bathtub. But I didn't go asking my neighbor to pay my way. These people have no clue. They wouldn't sacrifice for that. They'd die first. And then let's not even get into our food. How they're poisoning the shit out of that. You people that live in a big city and have to shop at the grocery stores, I feel sorry for you. I'm surrounded by food, growing in the fields, walking around on his hoof, coming out of the garden. I ain't got to worry about that fake shit. Wonder why people are so unhealthy? Well, you live in the city. First, you're breathing the air. Then you're eating this garbage. And then you're completely stressed out. How does that work for a healthy human being? Just what? So you can have more green pieces of paper? I don't understand that. Some people just aren't meant to be rich. I was middle class for a while, couldn't fucking stand it. People always calling you because they need money, paying a shit ton and a half in taxes, owning property and being basically, you don't own it. You have to pay taxes on it. You're just the primary renter until the county or city or whoever, you pay your property tax to, comes and kicks you out because you don't pay your taxes. So I don't have to work now. Are you talking to me? It is, and this is nothing. If you are retired, why should you have to pay taxes? Why? If you work 50 years of your life, put in the Social Security, pay your taxes, why should you have to pay federal income tax anymore on anything, even if you got a side hustle? Because you go out and spend more, especially baby boomers, spend the most money, the ones who have the wealth, you're paying that sales tax, this taxing us on income and sales. The government thinking they need part of every transaction that occurs, not only between me and you or a business and you, but all over the freaking world. And our country still can't make it with getting a part of the action with everything, getting a piece of the action. And now we had Intel going to Oval Office and give the government 10% of Intel. Remember that? Everybody forgot about that? Well, what, he sits there and calls these CEOs on the carpet and say, okay, how much of your business are you going to give me? Huh? I'll tell the American people it's for them, but how much you going to give for me? 10% for the big guy. You know what I'm talking about? Stay in line there, buddy. Stay in line if you want to stay in business and stay healthy. Is that what goes on in that shit? See, they can try that with a beta male. People like me, fuck it. I'm going to jump across that desk and tear his fucking throat out. I'm not going to sit there and bow down to these freaking beta males. I've had it with politicians. Our politicians have done nothing for us. Impeach? Remember when all we had to do was worry about Monica Lewinsky? Remember those days? Boy, that was just in the news every single day for months and months and months. Now what do we got in the news? Oh, we got a war going on here, people dying here. Oh, we're $38 trillion in debt. Oh, the government shut down. We need more money. Taxes have to go up. 50-year mortgages. You're not capable. We need more foreign students in this country so we can keep our colleges going. I mean, we're going to go to war with Venezuela. I thought we hated Russia. You know, this is one thing about the United States. Can we please go to war once with somebody like when I was in a frickin' senior picking on a first grader? But then again, all we got is beta males in charge of our country. All right? They're going to go after a beta male is never even going to raise his dukes in a fight. Okay? Go after Venezuela and Nicaragua. Yeah, the CIA's upset about all the competition they're having, the drug running. The CIA is trying to use our military to get rid of their competition. You know, one day America's going to find out that, you know, we pissed off a lot of people. And when the dollar collapses and we become a third world country overnight, and our military collapses and we maybe have, instead of 12 aircraft carrier groups, we have 2. One on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And some countries come into the Gulf of America and just come up through Texas and split the country in half. You know, we could end all this. You know, we got domestic enemies in this country. It's quite obvious. MAGA fracturing shows us that we got domestic enemies in this country. And the people that are standing behind, you know, Trump, I made MAGA. I understand MAGA. Really? Go back 10 months, a year, and go see what you were saying. Just go back and see what you were saying. And then wonder why some of your people, I mean, I voted for this man because he had to win over Kamala Harris. He had to. I mean, I hate to say it, but with Kamala Harris, it would have been worse on us. I mean, I feel I probably would have been arrested or had a 6 a.m. no-knock rate because, you know, they get real upset when people don't agree with them too. But they're a little bit more violent. Trump just insults us. You know, Americans are capable. You know, how capable is a child? It depends on how hard you pushed him, how hard you challenged him. Like I say, when we were in high school growing up, you remember this in Peach, Bambi? You'd sit there and went to school, did our homework, had a job, did sports. It still had plenty of time. We challenged ourselves. After our parents pushing us when we were younger, when we got in our teen years, we just pushed ourselves. We knew what we wanted to be when we grew up. You ask somebody who's 14 or 15 in high school now, what do you want to be when you graduate? They don't even know. They have no clue. I couldn't even imagine have grown up like that with not the dream of me being a cowboy or being an astronaut. I didn't get to be an astronaut. I probably could have went that path, but, you know, whatever. I had the brains and somebody offered to put me through college, but I decided to go to the Marine Corps instead. I wanted to follow that dream. So anyway, who knows? But, you know, that's the thing. I had dreams, not just one. I had many. And I still haven't stopped following them. I mean, I was 40 years old when I went out to the, what was I, 39? No, I was 40 years old when I went out to the mountains of Wyoming in the middle of winter and learned how to, I mean, I worked with cows and stuff in my life, but I never knew how to be a cowboy. I never knew how to rope or nothing like that. My ramrod told me I knew how to sit on a horse without falling off. And frankly, I thought I was good at horses. I didn't know nothing about horses, but that was a dream I followed. Another part of my life that I was going to, succeed in doing. All right. Never stop following your dreams. If there's something you want to do, you're retired and you got the money and you wanted to do something, I don't know, go to school to be a vet or something, go be a vet. Don't be on your deathbed wishing, oh, I wish I would have done that. Don't ever get in that position. By the way, I always wanted to go to the moon, right? Well, I figured in my lifetime, somebody'd figure out money up there and I could sit there and apply for a job. That didn't happen. I can't be a cowboy. Why can't you be a cowboy? I tell you what, I sat there, and the ranch I went to was real nice. It was a hard-ass ranch. Everything was done. We ran cows on 280 square miles, and all cow work was done on horses. Okay, there were times we had to trailer the horses, 25 miles, and then we still had to ride 6 miles to get to the cows and stuff. But anyway, it was a blast. Anyway, we had indoor and outdoor arena, right? And it was wintertime, so indoor arena. I did so many circles, learning how to ride a horse right, and then learning the roping and stuff. And then we had to get high school calves ready for the high school rodeo. So that's where I learned to chase calves down in roping. So if you wonder why the calves, when the cowboys get done roping them, and they always seem to run to that side of the arena, I know why, because the calves are trained a little bit. They work with them a little bit before it's not like that's the first time that calf was ever roped. Little secret from rodeoing. And then that first time we did that first branding, and I got to rope that first calf and pull it into the branding pit. You talk about a 40-year-old that was filling a 5-year-old's dream. I remember watching the movie The Cowboys with John Wayne. Awesome movie. Anyway, follow your dreams, like I say. That's why I'm not going to get caught into these politics. I know what the Constitution says, all right? And our government's not following it at all. Like in the Constitution, it says that we're supposed to have access. Congress is supposed to release to the American citizen on how all taxes were spent. So basically the government, especially in these days, that would mean if the government paid a bill, boom, it'd show up on the internet to all people, American citizens, that bill was paid on all finances. That's what it says in the Constitution. All the information that Elon Musk had privy to, that's all information all American citizens are supposed to have, according to the Constitution. But nobody knows it anymore. I need to do another thing, and I want to do a video and read the Constitution. It's probably in the Bill of Rights, and maybe I'll have to do that all separate because do a dissertation on it. Because read the Constitution. Just read it. And see how these bastards are breaking it. And we don't call them. See, this is the thing. And the thing about the Bill of Rights, when they ratified the Constitution, they said, no, we need to put something in here to protect the American citizen. There wasn't enough protection to the American citizen from the government. So they added the Bill of Rights. And basically, when the government started infringing on any part of the Bill of Rights, that's when it was time to reenact or reinvoke the Declaration of Independence and throw off that government for the littlest infringing on our Bill of Rights. The littlest bit. Where are we at? Now we're due to a president that wants a yes Congress. Oh, whatever he wants. The Democrats are going to destroy the Republicans in the midterms. Okay, Trump has fractured MAGA. The Republicans are going down, okay? You know why? Not because there's going to be more Democratic voters. It's because Republicans are just going to stay the fuck home. It's not like we're going to go vote Democrat. We already voted for one asshole that's destroying our country. They're going to stay home. Flat out. And then in 3 years, they're going to win the presidency. With all this power that Trump has put into the presidency during this second term of his, all you MAGA just better be ready. See, this is the thing, us 60% in the middle, we get, you're both sides are tyrants to us. Both sides. And we're, like, so you got 20% retarded Republicans, MAGA, and you're 20% blue liberal retards, okay? But anyway, if you're a MAGA and can honestly say through the election that what Trump, he lied. Anyway, if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, and the bell notification, because they don't want any of us agreeing. The last thing they want is a Democrat and Republican coming together, like talking across the fence if they're neighbors, especially if they haven't got along for years, and start talking and get along and say, you know what, we actually have more in common. You know why? Because they're treating us both the same way. I mean, when Trump sat there and said Americans aren't capable, he wasn't just saying that to Democrats, he was saying that to Republicans too. So is Byron Trump also incapable of doing anything, or was he kind of special? You got to have a lot of money to succeed in this country now? And if not, we're going to put you on universal basic income? Biden is a fucking devil. They're all politicians are the devil. Which one of them, actually, like say, which one of them is there for you? They both steal from you. They both take your money and spend it on stuff you don't want them to spend it on. They both try to sit there and tell you need to give up your constitutional, God-given constitutional rights, and finding loopholes to do that in. Both sides do that. Okay, I don't understand why everybody looks at politicians like they're different. They're not different, they're the same. Wings of the same bird, people. We know to get vaccinated to look, we need to get vaccinated to look it up. I never got vaccinated. I didn't play that frickin' Simon Says game. Never social distance, never wore a mask, ever wore a mask. Always went to work. Went the opposite way, the arrows in the store. Oh, yeah, I knew my constitutional rights. And I also knew the Nuremberg Code. You might want to look that up when it comes to medical tyranny. Okay? Sig, he's done after midterms. Yeah, but who are they going to put in then? Okay? Our old Marine there as vice president. I like to tell you, Corporal, you're not acting like a jarhead, Corporal. So anyway, Vince. Yeah, as a Marine, I'll say that to him. As a sergeant to a corporal, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Another one bought into the cabal. But then again, we did have General Millie Vanilli of the Marine Corps. Anyway, you support Biden? No. I voted for Trump. My mistake. I don't support any goddamn politician anymore because they're all a bunch of pack of liars. I support 1776. I support none of the above. Okay? We got our country robbed from us. Does it matter who the politician is? Because Trump just turned into another one of those swamp creatures. I mean, he's got the National Guard in D.C. right now, right? Drain the swamp, buddy. Drain it. You got him right there. No, we're worried about the guy selling the baggie on the corner. That's who we got to stop because he didn't buy his drugs from the CIA. Peace, love, and smoke. Maybe that's why we don't go higher than sergeant. The reason I didn't go is because when Clinton came to office, dumbass, I love how people always insult my military career. It's because when Clinton came to office, we downsized the military by 25%. That means the Marine Corps had to get rid of 52,000 people in 3 years. I was in a very important MOS, only had 52 people in it. They cut it to 26. They ran it like a big business. If they didn't have a place to put you, I got $12,000. I got severance pay and a thank you. Okay, and welcome to the civilian world. That's why I feel a bit bad about all these government workers that got fired, but they still got severance pay like I did. Okay? And then I get letters a year and a half later wanting me back in the Marine Corps like I'd never got out, like I never lost time in service or nothing. I told them, kiss my ass. Anyway, but whatever. You think a sergeant's a bad rank? You know who's the backbone of the military, dumbass? The junior officers and the NCOs. That's who is the backbone, and the NCOs do all the training. So, Mr. Smart Pants, sergeant is a very important rank. Anyway, but I guess I'll just be a lonely sergeant in the Marine Corps and just have to deal with being a low-life nothing because I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. But you people that say that have no idea what's coming down the pike. What has no idea what's going to be coming down your street one day. Okay? No idea. And then, they're not going to care about how you feel. They're just going to, one thing about it is I got my eyes open to see how the world really works. And since the real world's coming here now, and I've been exposed to it, I can handle it probably just a little bit better than you can. Anyway, now it was just another part of my life. I was going to the recruiting office when I was in the 8th grade, and they just kept telling me, come back when you're older. No, I was going to be a 20-year man. I wanted to be a 30-year man. But because of our politicians, like I say, I went in when Ronald Reagan had 3 years left as president. And I got out during Bill Clinton. I got to see how much the country had changed. And I saw the road we were going down. And I never thought we'd get this far without civil war. But they found a way to sit there and divide us. Divide us, we hate each other because of their color, because of how much money they make, because of, they're better at sports than me and all this shit. Just find a reason and get jealous of somebody or divide them. And now MAGA is fractured and divided itself. And if you don't go with the president, there's something wrong with you. Really? Okay, you go with the president and you don't think that your children are capable. Make sure that they sit there and they get on welfare. Everybody's against EBT and welfare, but then we got a president that tells us we're not capable, and then we bring in all these foreign workers that take these entry-level jobs so Americans can't even get jobs. So we're going to kick them off the welfare system and not give them jobs, pay foreigners to work in this country, and then give billions and billions of dollars to foreign aid to people, other countries, because they're poor, and not take care of our poor. I mean, basically, with all our foreign aid that we give out, we could have universal basic income, people. We already could have it. Now tell me, universal basic income, digital dollar, and digital ID. I bet she gets that done all in the next 3 years. How free do you think you're going to be with a surveillance state? How free? But everybody will bring it in because it's more convenient. Like I say, I like living out here. It's not like I live rough. I live free. And free means I got to sweat a little bit. And I got to get cold. And I may have to suffer a little bit, but I'd rather suffer anything I have to suffer to remain free than sit there and be in a nice warm room where I'm a slave. Never going to happen. But anyway, I just know this isn't what I voted for. I didn't vote for this shit. Where's the man that sat in the garbage truck? Was that just a political stunt to get more votes? We honestly thought you felt that way. We thought you could identify with the little guy. You know, the one who's paying all the taxes, the one who's making sure the government stays running. You know, maybe instead of the government shut down, maybe we should have a taxpayer revolt where we shut down paying taxes. Can you imagine all the employers that take money out of our checks for taxes just decide, nope, I'm going to give the employees their whole check. Fuck the government. I mean, if you got enough businesses to do it, where it was like a boycott of, I don't know, millions of businesses, how are they going to arrest everybody? See, this is the thing. The government is very small in comparison to the rest of the population. It's just they got to divide us, because the last thing the government can deal with is 10 or 20 million or 30 million Americans all on the same page. Or if we got 50 million all on the same page, where we actually get to the point where we hand King Richard the Magna Carta at the end of the sword. I mean, we don't cause this, people. We don't cause a politician to bad things to happen to him. He causes that. He makes us react to the point where that's got to happen, because they won't learn the goddamn lesson. Throughout history, you stupid politicians, the ember of freedom has always been more powerful than the fire that forges the sword of control, all the time. And when that ember's got to turn into a bonfire, politicians get thrown into it. Throughout history, has that ever changed? No. When good people have had enough, then things get better. You know, and the one thing about in this world, I always say, when it starts happening in one country, like Mexico's falling apart now, right? Well, it starts in Mexico, where the people revolt and we have a revolution. And then Canada, and then America, and then England, and then France, and then Germany. The West is going to fall because we become so corrupt. Absolutely corrupt. We become so corrupt to the point where we think men can get pregnant now. I mean, I watch a lot of history documentaries, right? Especially about World War II, the European side. And let's just say I know a lot about it. I read a lot and stuff. Even when I was in high school, I read every book our school library had on Hitler and the Third Reich and World War II and stuff. You know, I was into it back then. And you see how history perceives people. Do you realize how we are going to be perceived one day? People are just like people. How did the Germans go so insane? And it'd be like, now, how did the West go so insane? When it wasn't the people, it was the politicians. I mean, yeah, a lot of people supported MAGA at first, but within 10 months, he's lost a lot of his support. You know, every single time a Republican or Trump opens his mouth and says something now, they create a voter for 1776. Because Trump was our last resort. This is our last chance to sit there and do something peacefully before we got to pick up arms. And now we're getting to that point. I mean, I don't believe we need social services, but these people need to sit there. You just can't cut them off cold turkey. But, you know, it doesn't need to be abused like it is. But then these people need to be brought to be working citizens. So they sit there and start earning a paycheck. And they understand how the government has kept them down their whole life by keeping them on entitlements. It keeps them down. It keeps them controlled. It keeps them maintained. So, you know, how do you keep cattle inside a fence if you got them out in the pasture? Once they start, you know, trying to get through the fence, There's not enough grass left in the pasture. You got to move them. Okay? They'll escape. They'll sit there and fend for themselves. If you don't like people being controlled, say the fascists and communists, which one's different? Okay? Communism, you just own everything. Fascism, you still have authoritative control, but people are allowed to own property. Control. I will never be controlled. When you're in the military, you understand, especially when you get out, how many rights you don't have anymore, how many rights you gave up. You become property. I tell you what, when I was out and I was driving down the interstate and I didn't need papers to go anywhere, I was just free. It was a feeling of, a sense of, I really did something over the last 8 years. But then the feeling I got were the euphoria, like when first time I was overseas and on ship and we came back and we were pulling in the port, and the feeling I got when pulling into Morehead City, North Carolina there, getting ready to disembark after being away from the States for 6 months and seeing that, the feeling I got from that was incredible. Okay? And that's the feeling you get out here. Out here, this is flyover country, people. We live in counties that have less than 2,000 or 1,000 people in it. Okay, this is why the Panhandle, Nebraska, we get ruled by Lincoln and Omaha. Okay, but still, you're free out here with constitutional carry. I can sit there and go ride my horse with my gun on my side and my rifle in my sheath, ride by cops, wave to them through the middle of town. Nothing happens. Why is that? Why should I be able to do that, but you live in some other parts of America and you can't? Shall not be infringed. Yeah, you go to college for 8 years to sit there and learn the Constitution, still don't understand it, Bill of Rights, and don't even know what shall not be infringed means. That means any law against the Second Amendment that restricts the Second Amendment is unconstitutional. Anyone. You don't have to ask the government for permission to exercise your rights. Okay? And if you got evil people out there that want to take a Second Amendment tool and do something bad to another citizen, well, guess what? Then let's enforce the goddamn laws. Maybe go back to some public executions. This is what happens to you when you do this stupid shit. People go, oh, okay, I don't think I'm going to do that. Okay, no one gives a shit you have guns, dude. Well, I'm glad you don't. But see, out here, where we live, guns are a tool. All right? Especially when you're out in the ranch there, we're dealing with cows. You shoot a lot of coyotes. Yeah. It's a tool. And in the Marine Corps, it was a tool to take people's lives. Just like any tool, a shovel, you can use it for take somebody's lives or dig a hole. Okay? But, all I know is in the Marine Corps, I carried a gun. And as a civilian, I'm going to carry a goddamn gun. All right? Americans playing left-right politics thinking they're tough. I tell you what, this left-right politics, like I say, we're the 60% in the middle. We're just trying to sit there and survive every day. God, I hope a politician doesn't sit there and say something stupid today. Can you build a house with a gun? No, I can build a house with my bare hands, though. I have the abilities through my life. I have learned a lot of skills. And I have not stated, I master things. But yes, I can build a house, wire a house, plumb a house, build a septic system. And I can do all this. If the grid goes down, we don't have nothing because I have electronics background. So I can know how to produce electricity without a generator, okay? And without electric panels, all you have to do is spin a wheel. All right? I have hot running water. Believe me, I am ready to live like that. have all the skills to do it, with the horses included. One thing in my retirement isn't going to be dependent on the government so I can get my check and be on Medicare and go to the doctor at least once a month to sit there and be told, here, you need to take this so you can come back to me again. Who is responsible for that? You can tell these people never came across a coyote or bear in the land. If you don't need a gun, shut up. Well, this is the thing. Nowhere in the Second Amendment does it say you have to own a gun now, does it? It just says you have the right. All right? See, communism, you have to do something. You're required to do something the government wants you to do. In a constitutional republic, you have the right to choose. And then the government's got to follow that, okay? But you don't have to have a gun, sir. Nobody's saying you have to. But some people, like I say, it's just part of life. You want to walk through the woods and stuff and not carry a gun with stuff that can eat you up, that's fine. But then again, you probably live in a city where you pretty much got to worry about it every day anyway. Walking down the street, getting in your car, driving down the road, you have to worry about what's going to happen to me every day. I know in a big city, that's got to be in the back of your mind every day. Out here, I ain't got to worry about it. But when I go into the woods where I know I got to sit there and be a little bit more cautious, or in the big city where I know I got to be extremely cautious, okay? But nobody's requiring you to have a gun. If we got to sit there and go to 1776 and the Declaration of Independence, nobody's requiring you to pick up a gun to support the revolution. That's not for everybody. Me, believe me, being a Marine like I was, I don't ever want to be in a foxhole with somebody who don't want to be there. Okay, they get people killed. But there's a lot of other ways to support. All right, like I say, we're all victims in this. They want to divide us on how you think politically. That's the stupidest thing to divide you on, especially like what color you are. Something you can't change. Your political beliefs, nobody agrees on politics. That's why politics are so volatile, okay? That's why people argue about it so much. Because it's just, like religion. It's the way people believe, their core beliefs. Now, people that are wishy-washy and blow with whatever direction the wind's going, those aren't exactly what you would call your anchored supporters. But I'd rather sit there and be with a group of people that may even think, well, he's a little nuts, but I agree with him. And I know he's got my best interest in mind, and he'll take the lead if he has to. Okay, I'm sick of this shit. And all these people that say, well, there's nothing we could do. No, that's just the way it is. Since when? Since when don't you have the ability to better your life? Because somebody told you that? Like I say, some of us just refuse to put chains on. We'll take a bullet before we'll take chains. I will live in heaven before I live to be a slave down here. I've never been a slave my whole life. I've always been rebellious. And that's just the way I'm going to stay. Always been a patriot. An American patriot. And that's the way I'll stay. Daniel is a genius compared to this shitbird. Hey, I appreciate you being here. This is the thing. How are we supposed to get along as a nation? When we get here in the chat and all we got is this shit. Thank God. Don't ever do that to Trump, though. Do you trolls get too bad on Trump? He's going to sue your ass. Mr. Man can dish it out, but he can't take it. All this stuff, he's suing the BBC. Yeah, they screwed up. Everybody sees it. He should shame the BBC, but he's got to sue him, right? Imagine if Trump had where you could comment on what he said. Maybe you can on social media or not. probably got comments turned off. How many people he'd sue and stuff. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words are gonna fucking kill me. That's what kids are taught these days. Is this man anti-Trump? No, I'm anti-politician. I'm a constitutional conservative. So what party do I agree with? Neither one. People need to wake up. Trump or the Democrats put up. Are you, I mean, really? I don't follow a man. He's just another piece of shit. You know, I've been to D.C. I got to see Bill Gates walk into the Congress and all the congressmen, no matter what their political affiliation was. This was back in the 90s, falling all over themselves. I think it was the early 90s. Falling all over themselves to sit there and, you know, like the president was walking down the alleyway. You know, fuck that, where I learned real quick that Americans didn't mean shit in that house. Because Americans aren't even allowed to walk in there. But, oh, Bill Gates, yeah, hey, can I touch you? You're so great. I found out, like you say, traveling the world and then spending a little time in D.C., I got to see how screwed up this world is. Anyway, what'd you think of Reagan? I thought he was a great president. But, like I say, I was in the Marine Corps 3 years under him and stuff. And, you know, I did know there was some issues with. Anyway, he was a good president, but he wasn't the best, okay? He believed in America. He did say that, you know, the government is the biggest problem in people's lives. But then he gave amnesty to illegals back then. And then Iran and Contra and all this other stupid shit that presidents do that are just retarded. And then I think towards the end of his second term, he might have been starting to suffer from the effects of Alzheimer's or dementia, just like Joe Biden was. Okay? But, you know, he wasn't no George Washington, but he was better than Trump. But, you know, the thing is, he took over what Trump had too. An economy that was destroyed, inflation that was going crazy, interest rates, a country that was, you know, divided. And then in 1984 election, he won every state except Minnesota, which I know because I lived in Minnesota at the time, because we had Walter Mondale running against him, and the District of Columbia. So a lot of Americans in 1984 thought he was the best man. I mean, when you win California and New York as a Republican, I mean, only one he didn't win was Minnesota and the District of Columbia. But like, he was a man, he wasn't perfect. And this is what we got to get. Our politicians, we need to stop putting them into office because of what they can do for us. We need to put them in office on how they're going to stay out of our lives and make it so we can pursue our happiness and have liberty and have freedom. And they're going to protect that. And, you know, we live within the budget. And another thing, Ronald Reagan was the first one to put this country finally went $1 trillion in debt in October of 1983. Can't remember if it was October 16th or the 23rd, 1983. Reagan was the first president to go $1 trillion in debt. And I remember, how the United States was just going to fall because of this, the worst thing ever and stuff. And he was spending money, yes, but he was spending money to get Russia to spend money. And I don't agree with it. But it was his plan to outspend the Soviets because he knew their economy was going to collapse and outspend them so they collapse. All these people were talking about, he's talking about Star Wars and it's not going to work. You go, shut up. I know it's not going to work. But as long as the Russians keep spending money on it, it's working. But then again, Russia collapsed. NATO promised not to expand. They expanded. Russia is now a threat again. So now we got not only the Cold War, but we had to worry about being nuked by Russia. Now we got to worry about being nuked by North Korea, China, Iran smuggling a nuke in or whatever. Yeah, things are crazy. The thing is, when I was a Marine under Reagan and we traveled the world doing our shit right, that's when I found out that we were a bully. We would go into countries and do what the hell ever we wanted. It wasn't, when you got to feel bad sometimes about what you do and question it, and be like, this doesn't sound like what I signed up for. It wasn't the American spirit out there. I signed up as American Marine. And I thought we were always doing good around the world and stuff. Anyway, it opens your eyes. Like I say, I got to experience a lot of things that give me the attitudes I have today. If a lot of Americans could have experienced what I did, they'd be a little bit more wide open and be more wanting to fight for their freedom and liberty and realize that the government is nothing but a lying-ass institution. You can have a good man in there. If Trump was a good man, on January 20th, he's done surrounded himself by a bunch of people that aren't good people. And he's playing their tune. Like Laura Ingraham, my God, was he dancing. That was supposed to be a softball interview. And, if Laura Ingraham could have went like she wanted to, she's sitting in this chair. None of this makes any sense. None of this makes any sense. How do foreigners help our country? It destroys our country. In any country, if China is so great and they're so smart and they're so advanced, why are their students coming, 600,000 of their students coming to our country? Doesn't their college system need them in there? Seems kind of strange to me, doesn't it? Anyway, if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, and the bell notification. This channel, I don't sell anything. I don't take super chats or donations. We got a world of hurt coming down. Everybody needs to be able to react for what's coming, because one day you will be on the wrong side of the line of the government, and they will find a reason to sit there and make your life miserable. So I'm just trying to get the word out, okay? Because eventually I don't want to be on YouTube. Eventually I like to sit there and live my retirement years in retirement, enjoying my senior years, instead of worrying about, is the government going to cut me off? Anyway, China's building up with styrofoam. You people, let me tell you something about you people, about World War II. Why did Germany lose World War II? Why? Because it could not out-manufacture the United States. We built stuff faster than they could destroy it. Ships, tanks, planes, didn't matter. Faster than they could destroy it. Okay? Now we're going to go to war with China and win. Let's say they have inferior weapons and stuff, right? Which a lot of them aren't. We're sending all our raw metal there so they can build good weapons out of real metal, and they're sending this garbage back. The difference between a log chain between made in China and one made in America? Number one, a log chain made in China is got galvanized look to it, okay? And it's light as shit. A real iron log chain is heavy from America. Okay. China, yeah, it's a lot of garbage. We keep spending money on Chinese garbage. I won't do it no more. What's the sense of buying something that I'm going to have to buy 6 months later again because I used it once and ruined it? Or I'm just going to buy something that may cost, 20% more and it'll last me the rest of my life. Like our parents used to do it and our grandparents. Anyway, we sold our World War II vehicles, equipment to foreign countries to make a quick buck. We got a lot of them? South Africa. I used to work with some South African H-1B visa workers on the ranch, and he showed me pictures of their military. They're using all our equipment from World War II in the 50s and stuff. Yeah, I know. But, Anyway, who's the biggest arms dealer in the world? The President of the United States. Anyway, but yeah, oh shit, hour and 10 minutes already? But we get back to the subject. This country's messed up. And they're just doing more fracturing and more fracturing, and we're getting closer to civil war, people. And now we got, like I say, in England, they had liberals and conservatives protesting together because of digital ID. Okay? So in England, they pushed so far now that the liberals and the conservatives are marching together and protesting together. Soon to be coming here. We are so close to a civil war. So close. Like these videos I see of the younger generation, I'd be like, we are not living like this the rest of our lives. They got 70 years to look forward to. They are not going to do it no more. Okay, they see the gig. The gig is on. Okay, and eventually if the younger generation isn't going to participate, it's going to fall apart. Okay? Our politicians know this too. The last thing they want is for us to organize and get banned and come together. Come together as Americans. Solve our biggest problem, the government. And then we'll sit there and debate and come together and solve our smaller problems. But they're trying to make it look like our smaller problems are the biggest problems we have. You're always going to have a problem with another citizen because if you need somebody to think exactly like you do, you're always going to have a problem with somebody, okay? That's not about America. America, you are allowed to be different. And that's what made this country so great. You were allowed to be different, follow your dreams, whatever it was, spread your wings and soar. And everybody else benefited from you succeeding. All these inventors that made they invented stuff that led to the modern conveniences we have today. Okay? That was because people were free. Free men prosper. Slaves don't prosper. And when free men prosper, all their neighbors start prospering too. Anyway. Hey, West Virginia kicks, keep to yourself and stay out of other people's business. Stay in your own contained, bro. Yeah. If you start worrying about who cares about the Joneses? Keeping up with the Joneses? Like I said, I live out here. I stay away from people. People wonder why I'm a lone wolf. Because being around people just makes me claustrophobic. I can't stand being around them. I'd rather be around my horses and my dog than, and spend time with them and out in the woods and stuff. People are the animal on this planet that I just can't stand being around. Especially with what you got to see in some of these, like go to Walmart and some of the human creatures you got to see in that place. Oh. You people that live in the big city, like I say, everything's a sideshow these days. You can't have a sideshow at a circus these days because that's acceptable. Or what? Anyway, everything's a sideshow. All right. They like to say, they take the fun out of everything. But yeah, MAGA has fractured. And Trump ain't afraid to sit there and say it. But anyway, like I say, he told me a long time ago he didn't need me no more. And now he's getting rid of politicians that he don't need no more. Yeah, you said, Trump, you'd never want Marjorie Taylor Greene your enemy. Well, she's not your enemy. No. She's just somebody who's going to stand up to you. And if somebody who stands up to you is your enemy, well, I guess a lot of Americans are your enemy then, aren't they? No president in a long time has united the people. And this one, obviously, like I say, with all this trolling and shit. And the other one with threatening us with nuclear weapons and Hellfire missiles and F-15s. Beyond crazy, people, beyond crazy, like I say. Be able to react when the mob's coming down your street. Okay? Because after they come down the street, you're just going to have the military in your streets. He's got 3 years to go, people. What are we going to have? The 50-year mortgage reminds me of something too. Remember when they wanted to come out with the 100-year bond? 100-year bond. Yeah, that didn't fly either. Anyway, I just, I don't understand how these politicians may actually think that a lot of Americans are incapable and stupid. They may sit there and underestimate the average American because they feel they dumbed us down enough. If that's what they really think, they're the ones that aren't going to like it when the truth hits them in the face. Anyway, appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go out and enjoy this another wonderful November day. God, this is crazy for November. Mid-70s, sun shining, no wind. We could use a little moisture, but, a little snow would make it at least feel normal. Anyway, everybody have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Or 6 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time, I'm sorry. Anyway, this is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.